Good evening, everyone. My name is Tinacho Chitongo, and I lead strategic relations here at African Leadership Academy. Tonight, we will reflect on our progress from the past year and our priorities for the year ahead. We look forward to hearing from ALA leadership, students, and alumni. Today's agenda will be anchored on our 3 strategic priorities, and we will learn about some exciting developments on our campus, an exciting new program at ALA, and the strides we are making in unleashing the network. To kick us off, I would like to ask our CEO, Chris Bradford, to share some highlights from the past year.
Good evening to our friends from around the world from African Leadership Academy. It's a great privilege each December to share this update on our progress with all of you. As you know, our mission is to enable lasting peace and shared prosperity in Africa by identifying, developing, and connecting the continent's future leaders. And this work continues to mature into a transformational movement that is already seeing fruit across the African continent. This month, Fatima Al-Ansar from our entering class of 2010 will finish her first year of service as African Leadership Academy, or as Mali's youngest diplomat, and as African Leadership Academy's first diplomat. But excitingly, just last week, her countrywoman, Miriam Doumbia, from our first class, the entering class of 2008, won the Seed Stars Africa competition for her business, which sells insurance for rural farmers in their West African nation. These are just some of the many exciting stories. Also last week, for example, 3 of our ALA alumni, Alioune Fall, Senegal, Beauclair Mbanya of Cameroon, and Mariam Bashir of Tunisia were named Schwarzman Scholars, one of the most prestigious scholarship programs in the world. 145 young people selected from all over the globe after their bachelor's degree studies. 3 of them, African Leadership Academy alumni. This year, we've continued to work towards our ALA 2023 strategic plan, which, as you might know, has 3 strategic priorities: winning the marketplace, a learning, innovating, leading school, and unleash the network. And of course, making all 3 of these priorities a reality requires us to consistently grow and strengthen our organization. This year, I'm thrilled to have added 2 exceptional new executives to our team. Peter Kimingi, as our CFO, joins African Leadership Academy from the National Education Collaboration Trust, where he ran one of the largest nonprofits in South Africa's finance function. He now moves to this Pan-African role here at ALA, and you'll meet Peter for the first time later on this call. Maia Matshikiza started at ALA last week. She will take over as our Chief Network Officer, working with our young leaders from across the African continent as they seek to work together to lead change. Maia's story parallels that of our ALA network. She is an exceptional leader herself who grew up between Anglophone and Francophone Africa. She's bilingual. She started her career as a research scientist, went abroad for graduate school, and returned to Africa to both work as a consultant and as a manager in a Fortune 100 company. I look forward to introducing all of you to Maia later on this call. But I wanted to briefly dig into each of our 3 priorities and talk a little bit about the progress we have made. First, win in the marketplace. As you know, we seek each year to attract more young leaders from more places to our ladder of exceptional leadership development programs for young people. I'm pleased to report that as of December 2019, this admission cycle has more applications than any before in our history, and a more diverse pool of young leaders looking to attend ALA than ever before. We also continue to grow our exceptional Global Scholars program in the summer and our Model African Union program each March, and we attract more and more programs to learn from our model and to house themselves on our campus, like the Obama Foundation Leaders Africa program each summer. But excitingly, on this call, we'll introduce you to the first time to the SEGL Africa program, which will bring young people, 20 young people, starting this January for a term program on our campus. Our second strategic priority is a learning, innovating, leading school. Over the past 12 years, in many ways, we've gotten the results that we promised at ALA. We've attracted exceptional young people, developed their leadership potential through practice, and enabled them to enroll in leading universities all over the world, where they've accepted hundreds of millions of dollars in scholarship aid. But I think it's important for us to pause at this point in our history and ask, how can we get better? And how can we identify, capture, and research practices at ALAs that can translate to other schools all over the world? How do we help schools like those founded by our African Leadership Academy alumni adopt our practices in leadership development? Or how do we ensure that we are maximizing the learning of each young person enrolled in a writing and rhetoric or an African studies class at ALA, such that they're prepared with the critical thinking, the communication, or the collaborative skills required for success in the future? Finally, unleash the network. How do we unlock the potential of the exceptional young people who've come through ALA? The picture on this slide shows a gathering called AL for Education, 150 young people from all over Africa who came together with senior leaders and critical stakeholders in the education movement to lead and define change. This is one of many movements that we can unlock throughout our network as we organize according to grand challenges and great opportunities on the continent. And I look forward to seeing our network grow and blossom and engage each of you who is on this call over the course of the years ahead. It's going to be an exceptionally exciting time at ALA as we accelerate the development of not only each young leader, but the way in which all of us can collaborate together to unlock change on the continent. I'm particularly thrilled to now have the opportunity to introduce and interview two exceptional young leaders who graduated from ALA last year and who've left an indelible impact on our program. They are Jesse Forrester and Wumtia Gomba. Jesse is from Kenya, Wumtia is from Ghana, and together they are the award-winning creators of the Living Machine, which has reshaped our campus. Jesse, Wumtia, welcome to the call.
Thank you, Chris.
So Wumtia, I'd like to start by asking you a question. What is the Living Machine?
Thank you for that question, Chris. The Living Machine is a wastewater treatment system on the ALA campus, which is designed to filter over 300,000 liters of wastewater per year. And it does this using a series of plants, as you can see in the presentation. And we realize that the benefits of this system is not only going to be in the amount of water that we save each year, but then it's also going to benefit the student enterprises on campus, because we have agricultural student enterprises here, and we're going to be supplying them with fresh water for their work. And we feel like the benefits of this system is going to be overflowing to everyone on campus.
Fantastic. And as we can see, it's totally reshaped campus. We'll be opening the Living Machine for the first time tomorrow. Jesse, I'd love for you to describe how this project came about in your first year at ALA.
That's a really interesting question, Chris, because when Wuti and I were in our first year, we heard of Day Zero that was happening in Cape Town. And to us, that was massive, because how could a coastal city lack access to fresh water? And in fact, a city is so multicultural and so big like Cape Town. And so we did a bit of research and we realized even in Gauteng, there is an issue of water scarcity. Now, Gauteng has about 12.5 million people when we're doing it in 2018, and we realized that there has to be something that we could do to change the fabric of how we think about water, and especially in the African Leadership Academy campus, because you've got all these leaders from all over Africa that need to understand how important water is as a commodity and how scarce. And so the Living Machine was born from such adversity.
So we talk a lot at ALA about leadership development and leadership learning through practice. And I'm curious what you learned about leadership, or how you learned leadership through the development of the Living Machine.
I think it's great you mentioned leadership through practice, because one thing we realized that there's so many ideas we could come up with, and the Living Machine was one idea, and there were many other ideas attached to it with regards to how we could make it work. But the only thing that made it come to reality was the practice, like you said, the initiative we took, the initiative we put behind these ideas. And like I said, there's so many ideas we could have come up with, but just the drive to push through it. And we faced lots of adversity because we were learning about this system as we were going, as we were trying to implement it. And there were times when the pressure would be so much, but we just had to keep pushing. And that's what I really learned in this project, that leadership is nothing without practice, without the initiative you put behind it.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off Untia, I think I really like the quote that everything is impossible until it's done. And for us, that seemed impossible when we began because we were a bunch of kids at ALA and there was this huge idea that we had and an even bigger prize that we were applying for. And being chosen amongst 3,000 applications was immense to us because that showed that if you have a vision and you can execute, and that is brilliant. And now coming back on campus and seeing the living machine in action and opening it up and launching, it's surreal, really.
So I'm so excited tomorrow to formally cut the ribbon on the living machine after the 2 years of work you've put in. And for those who don't know, who are dialing into this call, you're the winners of the 2018 Zayed Global Sustainability Prize, for which $100,000 was invested into this project by the Sheikh of Abu Dhabi. You know, many wonderful things ahead of you, I'm sure, but I'd love to hear, what are your specific aspirations for the future?
Working on this project has shown me that institutions in general can make environmental sustainability a part of their work in almost everything they do. Because ALA is a school and it's not a wastewater treatment site, but we saw that we could use that to make the school more sustainable. And right now I'm working with a company which does environmentally sustainable waste management. And that made me think that companies everywhere could weave this into their fabric. Environmental sustainability could be a part of them without them having to lose sight of their business. And as such, I'm looking at environmental sustainability as a consultancy and seeing how I can advise different companies so they can make sure environmental sustainability is part of their everyday work, regardless of the industry they're in, because the fact that we've been able to do this in this school shows that it can be done in almost any institution.
Oh, that's quite inspirational, yeah. I think for me, the living machine has taught me a lot about sustainability, but I want to expand it onto a more broader context. So currently I am the CEO and co-founder of an organization that seeks to convert buses from running on diesel and petroleum power to being fully electric, whilst putting that on a ride-sharing platform to enhance efficiency in the public transport sector, because transport is the lifeblood of any economy. And I'm really looking forward to ensuring that we are carbon neutral within Nairobi and in by and large Africa in the next coming years. And so we have been working steadily and our prototype is coming through. It's almost ready and we're in the process of fundraising. So it's very exciting work. And one of those large challenges that here at ALA we learn about cathedral building. And I think for me, this might be my cathedral.
That's amazing. As you know, at ALA, we talk about unlocking and tackling grand challenges and great opportunities. And as we organize and unleash the network going forward, I look forward to your participation in a network that works together to tackle these grand environmental and climate change challenges of the course of the next 50 or 100 years, over the course of your lifetimes. This is an exceptional example of leadership learning through authentic practice, which is a hallmark of the ALA curriculum and is core to the work that we seek to do with every student over the course of their 2 years on campus. And to learn more about how the curriculum is evolving as a learning, innovating, leading school, I'd now like to introduce to the call our dean, Hatem El-Tayeb.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Hatem El-Tayeb. I am from Sudan by nationality, and I've had the privilege for the last 4 years of serving as dean here at African Leadership Academy. So as Chris said, I just want to share a little bit about how priority 2 of our strategic plan is progressing, what it means to become a learning, innovating, and leading school. One of the decisions we made when we launched this plan almost 2 years ago was to make a clear distinction between change and innovation. We can change a lot of things about the curriculum without really innovating. And the foundation for knowing that we're making meaningful progress that we can call innovation is to establish with clarity what it is that we're trying to achieve in the program. And that's where the 7 traits of ALA's curriculum came from. This year, the faculty took 3 of those traits, autodidactic, critical thinker, and communicator, and began to describe more clearly what these traits mean pedagogically. So for each of them, we've articulated 5 standards that we believe a teacher should be able to observe and support students to progress towards. So what does that mean in practice? I have already felt the power of this work in my own classroom. Incidentally, Wuntia and Jesse, whom you just heard from, were students in my philosophy class last year, and I hope they will recall, if nothing else about the class, that it was demanding. But as a teacher, I didn't always know with clarity where our interesting discussions of African philosophy were leading us in terms of making progress towards the traits. Kinza, whom you'll hear from a little bit later in the call, turned in her final paper for that class just a few weeks ago. And I am confident that while the class remained difficult, the difficulty of the class was hopefully more defensible and I think also more desirable. And so while I can't take any credit for any sort of machinery, living or otherwise, I do feel that I am learning as a teacher and innovating within my course, building on this work that all the faculty have been doing together. I'm also delighted to be able to report that external stakeholders are confirming for us repeatedly that we've made the right choice. Under the able leadership of Lisa Similane, our Director of Teaching and Learning, and Mr. Vincent Tago, one of our longest standing faculty members here at ALA, earlier this year, we formally earned accreditation under the ACE protocol of the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. And during their final visit, which was conducted by 3 seasoned international educators over the course of 5 school days, the visitors in their report indicated that they felt strongly that we had made the right choice in choosing this direction for the innovation of our curriculum. They and other stakeholders whom we trust deeply that have spent time on campus over the past 6 months are confirming for us that the efforts we are making are going in the right direction.
Thank you so much, Hatim. So another of our strategic priorities is winning the marketplace, enrolling more exceptional young leaders to our leadership development programs over the next 5 years. In 2019, we continue to expand our diploma program, ALA Model African Union, and Global Scholars programs. We also had the privilege of hosting the Obama Foundation's Leaders Africa program for the 2nd year running. But a particularly exciting victory is our new partnership with the School for Ethics and Global Leadership out of Washington, DC. Starting this January, 20 scholars will be enrolled in the Seagull Africa program, a unique semester-long opportunity right here on campus. To share more about the program, I would like to welcome Maria O'Grady to share more information on the Seagull at ALA program. Maria, welcome.
Thank you, Tinacho. It's great to be here.
Maria, can you describe what Seagull is?
Yes, so the mission of the School for Ethics and Global Leadership is to provide intellectually motivated high school juniors who represent the diversity of the United States with the best possible opportunity to shape themselves into ethical leaders who create positive change in our world. We think that this best possible opportunity is a semester-long program with a case study-based curriculum that gives students hands-on experiences with leaders from across the political spectrum. Students take what they learn from these real-life practitioners of ethical leadership, plus what they've read, learned, and discussed inside and outside the classroom over the course of the semester to figure out what ethical leadership means to them and how they will live their lives accordingly.
Fantastic. Can you describe why Seagull at ALA? And since you've been on campus since August, what has excited you most about being at African Leadership Academy?
So SEGL and ALA have known about each other's work for a long time. And while there are many ways in which our programs overlap, both academically and culturally, there's also much we can learn from each other. In the SEGL at ALA program, I'm excited to complement ALA's exceptional entrepreneurial leadership curriculum with SEGL's specialty, a course that is focused on more policy-oriented solutions. I've met many ALA students who are interested in political leadership in their own countries, and the Ethics and Leadership course that we've been designing for next term, which is modeled after our course in Washington, D.C., will be a great way for ALA students to get that same hands-on experience I referenced before, alongside future American leaders. When I think about these young people who represent the diversity of the United States and of the African continent, connecting at this age and building relationships that will last through their formative years and careers, I'm incredibly excited about what kinds of global change will be possible. In my 4 months here so far, ALA students have reminded me so much of the SEGL students I've known over my last 7 years in DC. They are passionate, engaged, fun, hardworking, and truly want to make a difference in the world. They're also young people who push boundaries and hold leaders to account, and it is this insistence on doing what is right over what is easy that makes me most excited about this partnership.
That's wonderful. And how would a prospective applicant apply to SEGL at ALA for next year?
The application is now live on our website, schoolforethics.org. The deadline for applications is February 15th, 2020. SEGL has need-blind admission, so students from any and every socioeconomic background are welcome to apply and should not worry about tuition costs or airfare. We look forward to enrolling 2 great cohorts next year for the equivalent of the American fall and spring semesters. So September to December of 2020 and January to May of 2021.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Maria. Welcome to ALA, and we look forward to continuing to develop this program together.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. As Chris mentioned earlier on the call, we've been making considerable progress in unleashing the network for further impact. We will be sharing links after this call to showcase our work in education and health. And tonight, I'd like to introduce the community to the newest executive member of the team, Maia Matshikiza, who joined our team last week. Maia, welcome.
Thanks, Tinacho. Good evening, everyone. My name is Maia Matshikiza, based in South Africa. I recently joined, and I'm already very proud to be a part of the ALA community. I never cease to be amazed by the potential that lies within the student and alumni body at ALA. And I'm particularly excited about the tangible initiatives that flow out of this community, impacting the continent and its people. And I see the role for the networks division as one to set up the social infrastructure that will ensure that more of these young people are able to access opportunities and be linked to the right people so that they can be successful in their respective ventures. And I've already had the pleasure to interact and learn from alumni, students, and staff, which has been great fun. And I really look forward to working with a broader set of stakeholders. And I really thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Maia. Welcome to ALA. Maia is really emblematic of the depth and diversity of talent we are attracting to build ALA and its network. But we also have a record number of alumni working at ALA today, building our network programs, recruiting future leaders across the continent, and teaching in our classrooms. One of these alumni focused on unleashing our network is Trevor Kibet, a member of the ALA entry class of 2010. Welcome, Trevor.
Thank you, Tinacho, for the introduction. I joined ALA at the age of 16 in 2010 and graduated in 2012. I thoroughly enjoyed my time here. My time at ALA were probably some of the two memorable years of my life. I got to interact with some of the most brilliant and engaged people that I have ever come across. Nonetheless, joining ALA at the time was a massive gamble because it was a new school. I was part of the third incoming class, but the vision and mission is something that has resonated with me so strongly and still does today. It was at ALA where I learned about the opportunity to study in France at a school called Sciences Po. I ended up enrolling, completing a degree in international relations in 2017. Subsequently, I went straight to do my master's degree at the University of Oxford in African Studies. And this focus and interest on the African continent was, of course, nurtured here at ALA. It is at Oxford where I continue to learn more and do research about the different issues and themes touching the African continent and try to attempt to find some of the ways you can solve some of Africa's most pressing problems. My personal research focus was on language education policy in the Republic of Mali, where I was lucky enough to do some fieldwork in March 2018. I worked briefly in Kenya after finishing my master's in June 2018 for an organization called the European Institute of Peace before joining ALA in October of this year as the Alumni Engagement Associate. I'm really excited about being back at ALA and working in this role. ALA has over 1,000 alumni and former students around the African continent and around the globe doing some incredible work. Our first classes of alumni are now only 5 to 6 years out of university, and we already are seeing a tangible impact. We have many alumni who are doing some amazing things, even in their own small ways. Being able to be the custodian of this network is something that is very exciting for me. I know that my 2 years at ALA were a period of massive growth because I constantly interacted with some of the smartest and engaging people. I would like to continue this same interaction and continue being inspired by alumni while in this role. We have a large number of alumni starting to enter the workforce who have just a couple of years work experience. We need, as alumni, we need mentorship, guidance, and advice from industry leaders and more experienced individuals. I know the stakeholders in the audience today would love to get involved and contribute. I appeal to all of you to get engaged and help our alumni steer their way into the professional or working world. And with that, I pass it back to Tinacho. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Trevor. It's really wonderful to have you back on campus. So finance is the lifeblood of any enterprise. And we welcomed the new CFO to ALA in 2019 after 6 years of exceptional service from Lara Rabiu. Peter Kimingi brings deep experience to the Academy. Peter, welcome to ALA. Can you please share your perspective on the Academy's finances?
Thank you, Tinacho. Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Kimingi. I have been a CFO of ALA since September this year. The finance department is tasked with stewarding the Academy's resources, and I'm delighted to report that we've completed a clean audit of our financials in July this year. The audit process was very smooth and is evidence of ALA's exceptional systems. I am impressed by the depth and the quality of the team that I found in place. ALA continues to make progress in financial stability with a stable balance sheet and more robust revenues. But it is also clear that we are investing heavily behind the 3 priorities of our strategic plan. We have grown our budgets by 25% year on year as we begin to invest in the ambitious strategy, including on-campus innovation, network programs, and ever stronger Anzisha program. The driver of our financials remains philanthropic support, and December is the most important time for the philanthropic gifts. We ask for your continued support this holiday season. Your contributions enable us to provide financial support to the 90% plus of our student body that relies on financial aid. Back to you, Tinacho.
Thank you, Peter. So to close off this section of the call, I would like to ask one of our current students, Kenza, who is the outgoing student government chairlady, to just share a vote of thanks to our supporters from around the world. Soon after that, we will start our Q&A section.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenza Slawi and I'm a second year student from Morocco. So I was the student government chairlady from May to November 2019, and one of my biggest leadership lessons during this period was there is nothing that can't be done. So on behalf of the ALA students body, I would like to share our deepest gratitude to everyone who makes ALA possible. Thank you to our donors around the world for believing in the mission. Thank you to our university and internship partners for enabling us to connect to opportunities that form part of our growth and development. Thank you to host families and communities that make us feel at home around the world. Thank you to ALA alumni for blazing the trail for us. Thank you to our parents, our original leadership coaches. And thank you to the faculty for your commitment to our development. And finally, I would like to thank my peers at ALA for the community that I will always call home.
Thank you, Kenza. So it is now time for questions and answers. You can find the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen, and our executive team, staff, students, alumni look forward to taking your questions. Please feel free to make use of the Q&A bar right now, and we will endeavor to answer as many questions as possible. I'm pleased to see that there are already a couple of questions on the Q&A tab. So the very first question is from Frank Aswani, our former faculty member. It's wonderful to see you, Frank. And the question is, I recently attended the Anzisha Prize evening earlier this year. I'm keen to find out, what are the future plans for the Anzisha program? I'm going to ask Josh Adler, our executive, our VP for Growth and Entrepreneurship, to take this one.
Thank you, Tinacho. And hello to everybody on the call. It's really nice to be joining you today. And thank you, Frank, for joining us at the event and your continued support. So I think the overarching point is that not enough young people, particularly those with leadership potential, are choosing entrepreneurship when we consider the jobs crisis we face. And the Anzisha program, or the Anzisha brand, is increasingly this umbrella under which all our activities that are focused around entrepreneurship will live. And we now have a really clear and simple theory of change that I think we'll be pursuing over the better part of the next decade. And it's to first inspire many more young Africans with leadership potential to firstly choose entrepreneurship as early as possible, and then be successful in that choice. And there are three broad activities we're going to do to ensure that that happens. The one is to work at the curriculum level in high schools and at ALA in particular to encourage that choice. Then we're going to work with people that influence that choice, parents and teachers, and you might have seen that we've published books and resources for those two audiences already in this past year. And then we've now started to engage at a more macro level with people like investors and policymakers, recently running things like investor training to help people think about investing younger, and releasing a scenario green paper that should influence policymakers to think differently about entrepreneurs of this age. Next year is our 10th year of the Anzisha program. So I know we recently celebrated ALA's centennial, but next year will be the 10-year celebration of our entrepreneurship work overall. And there's a lot coming, and I look forward to everybody's support as we explore those themes. We have a new website that you can visit at anzishaprize.org that allows you to explore all the different resources we're going to produce. And we'll also be co-creating the future with our stakeholders over the year ahead.
Thank you so much, Josh. And so next question that I see here is from, looks like from a prospective student of ALA. And basically the question is, and I think we'll address this to one of our students. What advice would you give to an incoming student at ALA?
I think just like rest a lot before coming here and expect a lot of growth, sometimes a lot of discomforts, but like discomfort is what is going to allow you to grow. Yeah, and like just start thinking about things that you can do here, start reaching out to students here. I'm sure they are going to be really helpful and like they're going to respond to all your questions. That's all.
All right. Thank you. So a question around the program. Mary Kiguru is curious to know the key elements in mentoring that directly impact ALA scholars to be successful in forging their own futures.
I am happy to jump in with a couple of thoughts there, but I'd love also afterwards to give Wizu a chance to talk about the role of one particularly important set of mentors in every student's life. But here on campus, I think there are 4 groups of people that play an important role in students' growth. The first one is passionate faculty, and I think that the students who are on the call today will confirm that some of the inspiration that drove them to take on the projects that they took on and to persist was faculty members who are deeply passionate about their subject and who care meaningfully about the mission of ALA. Secondly, every student at ALA is also assigned an advisory family. And in that context, because we are all at a home away from home, it's important for there to be an adult that takes an interest in every young person's life beyond their academic experiences. And we hope that every individual student at ALA feels that there is at least one trusted adult within the advisory program that they can share those concerns with. I think probably one of the most impactful modeling relationships that students will develop at ALA is actually with other students. I know that particularly through the PC program, but also generally speaking, year ones look up to and learn from year twos in how to make the most out of this experience. And really that's us seeing the network coming to life, right? Because those relationships persist throughout students' experiences. And we hope through the work of people like Trevor and Maia that they will be multiplied across the network, even with relationships with students whom they haven't shared time on campus with. The last thing I'll say before I pass it on to Uzo is to say that there are also Johannesburg area professionals that will come to campus in a variety of ways. So for example, within the Entrepreneur Leadership Program, where all students are simulating business, we do recruit board members that attend 3 or 4 board meetings on campus each year that have areas of interest which are relevant to the interests of the student. We have distinguished guest speaker programs and executive seminar series programs, and we would highly encourage anyone based in Johannesburg or with friends in the professional Johannesburg network to refer them to ALA. It really is very meaningful for a young person on our campus to have a chance to chat for half an hour, and sometimes much longer about something they're passionate about with a professional who's actually engaged in that field. Uzo, do you have some thoughts to add?
Well, yes, thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. I would probably add the last mentor, which is equally crucial, would be parents, and the opportunity that our parents have to be as closely part of this experience with their children as possible. I think here at ALA, we have a strong parents association that are willing to learn and to understand exactly where and what their children are learning. And I think being guided together with other parents in understanding ALA's curriculum, understanding what leadership looks like today has been really helpful for our students to know that their parents are walking alongside them and not against them.
Fantastic. Thank you, Uzo. So the next question is focused around fostering innovation among students to actually enable them to create tangible solutions. So the question is from Anonymous, and it says, I'd like to know a bit more concretely about your model to foster innovation using subjects like philosophy or African philosophy. How do fellows, I assume students at ALA, go about using tangible takeaways from subjects and apply them to designing products? So I'm going to give this one to Jesse and Wintia to start. And Tinacho, if you'd like to add anything else, please feel free to do so.
Okay, awesome. As Din Hatim said, I was a member of his very difficult class, African philosophy. And I think at the very fundamental core of who we are as individuals, why we do things is important. And we delved into issues of Ubuntu, into Kantism, into utilitarianism, and we interrogated the meaning of those philosophies and how they apply to the African context in real life. And so I feel that I am a person who's a proponent of Ubuntu at heart because I believe in the unity of all Africans. And that in itself is a driver for something, say, like the Living Machine, because at the very fundamental core of the project, you have this potential that impacts numerous people across the continent. Wintia is Ghanaian, I am Kenyan. We're doing the project in South Africa on a continent with over 40, on a campus with over 47 countries represented. And so that itself is a factor of Ubuntu. And so you can see that with ALA education, there is a seepage into who we are as individuals.
And touching on what Jesse said about the ALA curriculum getting into who we are as individuals, one thing I really loved was that the curriculum was really tailored for us as individuals, and it wasn't just philosophy, take it and read and just come talk about it, but it was philosophy contextualized. So philosophy for us on the continent, philosophy for us as ALA students, and seeing how we could make change personally. Because one thing I realized in before joining ALA was the educational with the education I went through, a lot of the things I learned were not as applicable to me, or probably I would have had to wait for some time to apply them. But with ALA, I got the opportunity and the space to apply these things every day. With Ubuntu that Jesse was just talking about, in Dean Hatton's class, we had some serious discussions, and these discussions were sometimes so mind-boggling that as you go around through the rest of the day, that's all you're thinking about. And any action that you're going to take, whether it's in the dining hall, like you're just thinking about it. And it becomes part of every single thing that you do daily. And that's what I love about this, the fact that it follows through in our everyday lives.
Fantastic. Dean, do you have anything to add around how we
Absolutely.
make our courses tangible?
Great. Yeah, first of all, I'm glad to hear that Wunti and Jesse had memorable experiences and that you can recall some of the things we studied. It's a good indicator that learning was enduring, which is something we're looking for. So what's the point of doing African philosophy? How does that help change the future of the continent? I think we have a few arguments about that. And I'll start by reminding everyone where I started today that we've defined for ALA 7 traits. These are the 7 learning outcomes that we believe define the sort of young person whom we hope will leave the academy better prepared to live a life of ethical and effective leadership impact. We're looking for young people who are Africanist, autodidactic, critical thinkers, communicators, collaborators, ethical and entrepreneurial. And while there is a debate amongst educators about whether or not something like critical thinking can be described and pursued in a manner that is independent from the domain in which it is being applied, we've made the decision that we think these traits are critical enough that they need to be articulated horizontally across the curriculum. So when we are working in the African philosophy classroom and applying the skills of critical thinking to an argument from 150 years ago, learning how to dismantle it and put it back together in a way that solves a problem that we care about, it's our conviction that that skill, that practice is meaningful when one is out in the real world. You are constantly confronted by complex problems that need to be understood by reading through dense data, whether it's textual or otherwise, and then interpreted with your own voice and a vision for where it is that you want the continent to go. And that's why we think it's useful to teach these things, but it's important to have a more defensible plan, more than just, oh, this is a confusing class, or it's a frustrating class, or it's a difficult class, for how it's progressing students towards those aims. And very quickly, I want to just link that to Lillian's question. I see that she's asked a question about the thesis, because I think they're related. Lillian, thank you for remembering that we launched the thesis, or relaunched the thesis this year. It's still too early to say. Students have just turned in their first set of reflections, but it's motivated by exactly the same kind of thinking. We're asking year 1 and year 2 students to look at the breadth of the curriculum that they're studying, identify pieces of work that they've done. Within those pieces of work, look at how they are growing as a learner, and then connecting that to a real world issue that they care to solve. And we hope that that practice will not only help students to make meaning of the rigor and difficulty of the ALA program, but will also help us as educators really learn and focus on the questions that students are most motivated by.
Thank you, Atim. So the next question is focused on the Unleash the Network priority. And the question from Anonymous is, I've heard of ALA's alumni sector programs, like the one in education. Can you shed some more light on this initiative and what's next for the program? I'll ask Chris to take this one.
Thank you, Tinacho. I'm confident that any answer I give will be answered far more far more robustly by Maia in roughly a year's time. But I think the question about how to organize our network has been one that has really dominated a lot of our thinking since we wrote our strategic plan. Ultimately, what we seek to do at ALA is accelerate careers of our young leaders and their collective impact on the African continent. And we spent quite a bit of time over the past 18 months understanding how alumni networks are organized and what the opportunities are to organize our alumni network most appropriately. And not just our alumni network, but the broader network of individuals associated with African Leadership Academy. What we saw is that many educational institutions organize their alumni primarily according to cohort. So I graduated from Yale at a particular time many years ago, and most of Yale's investment in organizing me as an alumnus is through organizing my graduating class. And then there's some investment around organizing me with other alumni who were in the same location, but there's relatively little investment in organizing other people with whom I share a sense of personal mission. We see a massive opportunity at ALA to invert that, to foster intergenerational connections that can truly unlock transformative impact on the common. So what we've decided to do over the course of the years ahead is to organize our alumni network around what we call grand challenges and great opportunities in Africa. Find all of the alumni, I see Lillian Maboya is on this call, who are passionate about an issue like climate change, and our broader stakeholders who are passionate about this critical pressing issue of our time, and create opportunities for them to connect as a network and work together to lead change. So we've identified a group of priority sectors that we will work on. They include education, they include health, they include agribusiness and rural livelihoods, public sector and civil society. And we want to invest in convening these sectors, in building deep relationships with employers in these sectors, in fostering amazing internship and career pathways for alumni in these sectors, but also in enabling lifelong connections that can unlock the rapid growth of our alumni and the ventures that they found and the initiatives they seek to bring to life across the African continent. So to anonymous attendee, I'd say most importantly, watch this space. I think you'll see exciting things roll out of ALA through the initiative of our alumni community over the course of the year ahead. And we've already seen that over the course of the last 6 months with the launch of AL for Education and AL for Health. And for those who are on this call who made trips to Nairobi or Kigali to interact with our broader alumni community in those places, I can only say thank you for investing in the network. And I can remind you that you are the network. It is together that we will unlock lasting peace and shared prosperity in Africa.
Thank you so much, Chris. So the next question is related to outreach across the continent. And this is from Malin. So the question is, what kind of outreach is being done across the continent to engage with high school students who may be interested in learning more about ALA? Is there any plan for a second campus elsewhere on the continent? I'm happy to take this one. And so before my current role in strategic relations, I actually worked in admissions. And over the course of 6 years, I got to see the length and breadth of the network that enables the Academy's mission to be able to identify high potential young people from across the continent. So over the years, since we began enrolling students since 2008, we've built up a network of over 5,000 organizations, schools, and competitions that engage with young people that are taking initiative in their communities. An example could be Junior Achievement, which works with young people who have entrepreneurship clubs on their high school campuses. We work with specific high schools across the continent, and I think increasingly word of mouth has become quite powerful as well. And one of the things that I would encourage you and everyone on the call is to nominate and encourage, people that who have access to young people that have high potential, that have the potential to enroll in any of our programs. And this is really the way that we've been able to get the word out across the continent. I would say there's still work to be done. And I think ALA is a household name in some places, and in other places, I think we could do more. And that's an exciting challenge for our recruitment and admissions teams to be able to identify, the most talented young Africans that we can find across Africa. As far as the second campus goes, this question has been asked several times over the last 11, 12 years. And for now, the answer is there is no plan to have another campus on the continent. The way we see ourselves scaling our impact is through the work that Maia and her team and Trevor will be doing over the course of the next few years, really empowering the young people that are in our network, graduates of ALA who have finished their university, undergraduate studies and graduate studies, and really empowering them to be the change that they need to see on the continent and back in their home communities. So in our view, the next ALA will be established by an ALA grad. And I think we've already seen that in the education sector that Chris just described. So I hope that answers your question. Next question is for Trevor. It says, welcome back to campus and to South Africa, Trevor. What are some goals you look forward to meeting in your exciting new role?
All right, thank you, Tinacho. It has been so exciting to come back on campus. It's been an emotional merry-go-round for me personally, because the last time I was here was on graduation, 2012, and coming back here after 7 years and seeing how much this place has changed has been amazing. I know that a lot of alumni don't get the opportunity to see some of these changes and see some of the developments, and that's why I think these type of conversations we're having today, even with stakeholder, the recent community call we had, these are initiatives that we're trying to put in place so we can get alumni as informed as much as possible in terms of what's happening on campus. One of my main goals, of course, is to keep alumni connected to the magic of ALA. And we have ramped up our social media presence. I think if you follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, and follow us on, the name of these pages are called ALA Quad. We've really been trying to ramp up, communication with alumni, keep them connected to what's happening at ALA. And I think this also kind of segues into the next question. I saw something about whether or not there are any regional chapters. And we're also building that. We have something called the Ninja Program. So essentially we select one alumni from different regions who heads up a certain region. So for example, we just elected in Johannesburg, Uli Sane, who works here at ALA as a ninja. We have a ninja in London, who's called Moody Ditiro. We have a ninja in New York, who's from Senegal originally, but she's based in New York. She's called Aissa Tidiane. So we're trying to build regional chapters to keep people kind of connected to the magic of ALA and try to make it as informal as possible. We want to, create, a network of friendship and collaboration. So that's what's happening on the alumni front. So I'm really excited to be the custodian of this network, and I'm looking forward to the next year.
Thank you so much, Trevor. So please feel free to type in any additional questions that you have. We're coming up to time, and I think we have time for at least one more question, or two more questions, if anyone wants to add anything on. But another question from Frank is, how can we as the general public support ALA's 3 priorities? So I'll start with win in the marketplace. And I think the biggest thing that you can do is around nominating young people to our programs. So we have a suite of programs that range, that offer opportunities for young people as early as the age of 13 all the way up to 19-year-olds, in addition to our core diploma program. What we'll do after this call is give you an opportunity to engage with these programs, and we'll give you links to them so that you can actually nominate young people that you believe would be a good fit for the program. I'll ask Dean Hattem to talk a little bit more about how people can get involved in the learning, innovating, leading school, but also the question from Peter about speaking of scaling, can you see a great Pan-African cohort of like-minded schools such as Gashora, Abaso, Hali, and Zimbabwe who will continue to operate as independent agencies but who might want to seek a more formal relationship with ALA, encouraging faculty exchanges, curriculum, beta testing, etc. So Dean, if you could cover that question, it would be really great.
Yeah, I'll start with Peter's question. Peter, thank you for joining tonight. It's really lovely to see that you're on the call. And that's a topic that's it's quite dear to me, and one that I think we've made meaningful progress on this year. So earlier this year, we hosted the IICAC ARI. For everyone on the call who's not necessarily familiar with the college admissions industry, the Africa Regional Institute of the International Association of College Admissions Counselors was hosted here on ALA's campus, and that brought together college admissions representatives with representatives of high schools from across the continent, a large proportion of whom come from the HALI network, High Achieving Low Income Students Network. So there was James Linville was here from Obarso, as you mentioned. Rebecca Ziegler-Romano was here from Zimbabwe. We had representatives from across the continent, from organizations, young and old, that are doing the work of creating meaningful pathways to university access for very capable young people on the continent. And what was really palpable in that gathering is that we've really come to a critical mass with these organizations, and there is so much that can be gained from coordinating. Just having the opportunity to present collectively to university representatives from around the world what the realities are of the sorts of student populations that we're serving here on the continent was a really powerful opportunity. But since then, there have been a variety of interactions, and I'm sure they will continue, through which we're trying to support one another's work. So you might be aware, for example, that James and Rebecca are starting their own school in Zimbabwe, building on the successes they've had with USAP. That's something that we're deeply invested in supporting, whether through sharing curriculum. I love the idea of curriculum exchanges, etc. But there are also lower hanging fruit. So one of the people who was present at that gathering was Corey Johnson, who works with Imagine Scholars. Imagine Scholars is based here in South Africa. They've referred many students to ALA. Some of Kenza's classmates came from that program. And Corey was not aware that we run something at ALA called the Model African Union, which is a simulation of the AU, and for which scholarships are available for students from the continent. And this year, for the first time, Imagine Scholars is going to send a delegation to the MAU conference in March. And they'll have a chance to interact with ALA students and with students from across the continent. So it's a great question and something that we're very engaged in, and one that I hope to see blossom over the next few years. And then very briefly on this idea of how people, the members of the public can engage in LIL. Firstly, I really encourage people to visit campus. I know students sometimes get a little bit tired how many times we have guests passing through the classroom, but it is really powerful for us to see meaningful feedback and engagement from members of the professional public, particularly people who believe deeply in the mission of ALA and who are willing to engage in the curriculum through things like ESS, DGS, those are our speaker series, or through our board program for folks who could volunteer on the EL side. The other thing that is important to me and is a strategic priority that I invest a lot of time in is university transitions. So we are always looking to build relationships with universities around the world. And if there is a university that you are an alumni of or for which you have a close relationship to, where you think ALA students should attend, I would love to have a conversation with you. Please reach out to me directly and we'll figure out how to make that happen.
Thank you so much, Dean Hatim. And we've come to time, and I want to acknowledge Funmi and Fatma. Happy to answer your questions separately in email, but unfortunately we've run out of time. I want to send a huge thank you to everyone for joining us on this call. As you heard from Kenza, our movement is powered by so many people around the world, and we are so grateful for your support. Before we close, I would like to share 3 ways you can get involved as a recap. The first, you can nominate students to our programs, and we'll share links on those. Second, you can support our scholarship program, which enables young people from every socioeconomic background to enroll at ALA through the scholarships that the Academy provides. 3, you can introduce us to University Contacts, which is a really powerful way to enable opportunities for our young leaders after they've graduated from the Academy. And finally, 4th, you could introduce us to employers. This could be to your employer or other employers that you think would be really interested in engaging with some of Africa's top talent for internship and careers. I want to thank my fellow panelists, alumni, staff, and executives for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure to share this opportunity with you. And I want to wish everyone a good morning, good afternoon, and a good evening. Thank you, everyone.